Hello, Natalie Lauren. Hello, Harris Vaughan.
Hello.
So, producer, writer, director, and both of you actors. In the film, which is, it's got a very long name, STI, Sexually Transmitted Introductions. It's a very sexually oriented film, okay? And it was very funny. I mean, we had it yesterday for the screening and people really laughed. It's very well made in a way that comedies are very difficult to make in a successful way. So first about the topic, about the subject. Why choose to talk about that particular aspect of things in life?
Well, I'll give the easy answer first. I think it was the easiest and cheapest script that I wrote that we could make. And then when I met Natalie, we got talking about some of the stuff that I've written, and she saw that one. She took a shine to it, right? And then we just thought there's more to this than just a guy going for a sexual checkup, and it's become a lot more sort of, poignant now, I think, in, terms of what's going on in, in the world of sexual health, I guess.
Without saying too much, the script is inspired by true events, which gave a great catalyst to this story. And it was one of those things that there was an obvious way to use humour to make a message and make a difference and communicate the importance of this topic, and on a quite universal scale level. So it seemed to have a lot of ingredients to make a fun, nice and important short film.
Yeah. Humor makes distance, so it makes you think. So the idea when you shoot a comedy is to make people think. And so what's your purpose? What's your intention with the way people should think about sex?
I think it's based on my true story, not Natalie. So she's been a good girl. I've been a bad boy in the past, but I think because I went to a sexual health clinic. I've been to a few, and it's always been a bit awkward and uncomfortable. When the one time that this story is based on, I saw someone that I had sex with a few days before. So I saw them in the clinic, and she was with her best friend, and it was really uncomfortable. And so it shouldn't be, because it's like, sex is the most natural thing we can do, that and eat and drink. And it should be spoken about more. We should be more careful about it, because it's something that can have serious effects on people, mentally and physically. And it's not funny, but we've tried to make it funny, to make it a bit more, accessible and more of a, conversation starter, so people can talk about it and, resolve problems and,
Exactly. And I think when we were doing a lot of the research into the extent to which this is an issue, particularly in England, where the film was made and produced, it was quite alarming, the numbers and the breadth of the issue. And we were having conversations. I mean, I remember speaking to a local pharmacy who were so grateful that we were making this film, because they said this is something that we've been tackling and seeing the increase of on like a weekly, monthly basis, but it's not a media friendly kind of easy conversation to have. And in our film we wanted to try and tackle or show that it's intergenerational, it's interracial, it's like between various sexualities. It's a really fluid thing, which, as Harris put, affects so many people. So I think the message, to answer your question, the message we want to encourage people is to think it's a safer topic to engage with, and it doesn't have to be so like be all and end all, life is over, terrible, shameful thing. The more we talk, fathers, daughters, whatever it might be, the better everyone will be at the end, really.
And it's important, like, to look after all your health, because let's say you get some kind of virus or something, you'll go to the doctors or whatever. If you get an STI, you should go to the clinic as well. It's important. And also I had in my mind, I don't know why, but if you did have sexual health classes in schools, which are probably really awkward and weird, how good would it be the class watch that film and then they talk about it afterwards? It's a really good segue into having that conversation with kids who might find it awkward and uncomfortable, but approaching it with a bit of a comedic angle.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, of course, yeah. So now to get in a more technical way, I mean, so without spoiling anything about your film, of course, comedy are always very difficult to shoot and edit because it's a question of timing, question of, I mean, it's to my mind, it's more difficult than any other genre, you know, when you try to make a film. And I was quite impressed by the scenes when everybody's seated, you know, in a waiting room, and there are people watching, I mean, other people's neck, and then, you know, you've got and it's very easy to get through the narrative there without any problems. And I wanted to know how you worked on that scene. How did you draw it? How did you work on that to make it so natural when you watch it?
Yeah, I think so. It was there's positives and negatives to that static nature. I think because in a film you want to have, you know, fluidity and motion and engaging visual storytelling. But the benefit, I think, of the static nature was the ability to capture so much coverage of all of the characters. The chairs weren't fixed, so we had the ability to just like shift slightly so we could make sure that the back of the head was in that shot. And it meant that from a continuity perspective, it was kind of easier because everyone was sort of sat in their place. We didn't have to worry about, like, you know, breaking for lunch and then coming back.
All right, sure.
So that part was actually really practical and useful. In terms of, like you mentioned about the editing, I mean, that was such an important part of making Harris's brilliant script translate from the page to the screen. And the timing, as you say, it's definitely an additional challenge that some films don't have to think so much about. The timing of shots is always really important, but making the jokes and the reactions work, it was a case of lots of editing and tuning and just shaving, like we're talking frames, two frames down was the difference between a reaction working and landing or not.
Yeah, great answer. There's a lot of good neck acting going on, but I think I personally think that really added to the sort of the dynamic and the excitement of the actual the film and the editing, because you could see people's slight turning and then get into position and then deliver their line or their reaction. And it's almost like, you know, like sometimes I watch horrors sometimes and you slowly see someone turn around and you don't know if they're possessed or what they're going to do. I think that made it feel a lot more exciting and, like, you know, impactful and, you know, moved quickly between the actors. Like the biggest laugh we get is probably when Fanny turns around and delivers her line to me about, not spoiler, but talking about how old people can have sex. I'm like, oh shit, yeah, they can. So yeah, it was nice. It was nicely mapped out. We knew where people were going to sit and stuff. So yeah, and I personally enjoyed it. Like being on a chair and be able to turn around and address different people. It was a good way of shooting.
The fixed rigidity of the positions kind of is in conflict with, like, the conversations and the topics that's being discussed, because you can't get away even if you want to, and to address the person behind you is such a big move. So it kind of added, I guess, to the tension that you see on screen. And as we mentioned, we did a lot of storyboarding. Our cinematographer, who was also the editor, it was really good in working with Harris to plan beforehand exactly how we were going to shoot each moment, because I don't think it's too much of a spoiler to say that the film takes place in, like, real time. So we couldn't shoot the film start to finish straight through in like a one shot. We had to sort of break it up into these kind of artificial scenes, and I think having the fixed set and location was just made that a bit easier and more logistically free.
And just to add, I think what also made it interesting, because a lot of films are shot, you know, like over the shoulder, head on. So to have that angle where you've got the back angle made it a bit more engaging and interesting for an audience to visually look at as well.
So was it something you wrote right from the start, this idea of the disposition in the room? Or
because when I had my own personal experience, the person I knew there was sitting on the front row with her best mate, right? And it was like half full. And I was like, I'm sitting right at the back. You know, I don't want anyone to look at me or talk to me, so I could see them in front of me, and then I could sort of
sync.
Yeah, pretty much. I didn't have to make eye contact with them or anything like that. So yeah, I really wanted it to be like that. And then obviously when you do get the turns, like Natalie said, if people do turn around in a waiting room, it's just like you have to have done something big for someone to turn around. So when they do turn around, it's like, oh, what's happening now? It's something impactful happening here.
That's good. All right. So So about this project, I mean, the fact is that you had, I mean, your idea was clearly set in your mind, okay? So is it, I mean, are you specialized in comedies, or would you like to explore other kind of, artistic experience in filmmaking? So what's your...
It's a good question. Comedy is what I love doing.
Yeah.
I do stand-up comedy, and I've written loads of scripts that are mostly dramedies, and I like acting in comedies because I like being happy, and I like making people laugh and be happy.
Yeah, sure.
So that's why I wanted to do comedy. But I think talking about like stuff like the human condition and stuff like that, I have written some other stuff which is more based about dealing with being poor, being lonely, bits of, disinterest with life. That's some other stuff that I've written. So yeah, I'd love to get those made one day, but I think at the moment, money is a problem. So we just got to focus on.
Well, you might get more funding if you.
Hopefully, yeah. Like we've mapped out a feature film, or a TV series for STI, which could easily be made.
Yeah.
And then, people have mentioned it'd be a good play because it's like set in one location.
Yeah, sure.
But again, it's just me personally. I just need someone to come in and be like, okay, Harris, I love your idea. I'm going to give you a bit of money. You go make it. I'll bring Natalie on board as well because she's amazing. Yeah. Like I couldn't have made this film without Natalie. She's absolutely phenomenal. So yeah, that's kind of long-winded answer.
I think for me personally, I don't know if this phrase will translate, but I've decided to describe myself as genre agnostic.
All right.
So, which I quite like. So this was obviously a comedy. Earlier this year, I was working on a sci-fi project. I've got some drama coming up, and I'm in post-production for an experimental film at the moment. So quite across the board. So I'm looking for a horror just to fill that whole cycle.
Well, I've written a comedy horror.
Well, there you go. Perfect. So I quite like delving into like lots of different things. I think at this stage, particularly of filmmaking, it's nice to experiment and play around with all kinds of things.
Yeah. So how difficult is it to find this? Because choosing to become a filmmaker, working in the film industry is very courageous because it's amazing amount of work, and it's teamwork. So you need to find people, the good people. You need to be able to work with people, and you're not even sure that your film will be screened after that. So
or get it finished post-production. Exactly.
So how can you make it happen?
Blind optimism and naivety.
Yeah.
It's right. It's difficult. It requires the collaboration of so many individuals. It requires an unfathomable number of different skill sets, which I think neither of us really appreciated too much at the beginning of this, particularly when you move into the more technical aspects of post-production. I think, I don't know, if I was to give advice to other people, it would be that the confidence that it is possible to do, and the knowledge that actually with a lot of things, be that in business or in artistic expression, there's always going to be hurdles and challenges. But as you say, like lots of films get made and have been made, and some are screened and some aren't screened. But that means that the path to be able to do it is there. So I think it's just the confidence and the audacity to keep going. There are lower days, of course. There are like bits that are easy, bits that are really challenging. I just always try and tell myself that even if it's in a low patch right now, that's not going to last forever, and it'll come through the other side, and you just sort of ride the peaks and troughs and try and stay on the boat. Just try and stay on.
Yeah. Well, I think for me, it was finding someone that believes in you and your work, which Natalie did, and just with that, it just instilled so much confidence and belief that we could do that. And then we just kept on pushing for it. Yeah. And like, obviously Natalie's really good at what she does. I'm not bad, So that together, it's just, we just felt that we believed in the project. We knew we could make this. We knew it could be funny. We kind of knew that we could raise the money to make it, and then it was just like, let's just plough through this.
I don't think either of us, like you're saying, either of us could have done it individually, and actually that's probably would be the biggest advice I would have to somebody else, is that like a collaborator is so important. So it's not just you on your own, somebody that you will meet with every so often, or that you can bounce ideas off with. I think the collaboration is what's really important with somebody on the producing side of it.
And
I never would have made this if I hadn't met Natalie, because I didn't have the connections, I didn't have the money, I didn't have the knowledge. So yeah, and I don't like working on my own. You know, like writing scripts can be quite a lonely job. You know, you just sit there with your imagination, which is fun. You're with these characters, but they're not real. You know, so when you have someone to work with, it's just like, yeah, this is great. They say this is good, this is bad. And it's just
it goes from being in your head to out in the world, because you have to talk about it, and that's a really important process, I think.
Yeah, that was one of the best things for me, just having someone to work with.
Good. And you know what's funny, when from the festival perspective, when you receive the films, and when we decide to select the films for the festival, we've got a team of people working on translating and adapting the dialogues, and those people working on translating films, they feel they are part of the team. You know? When you spend hours translating and adapting the dialogue, and then you see your subtitles when it's screened in France, people feel, well, I'm part of a team too, you know. And that's the idea, the team spirit you have when you make films is great.
Yeah, and when we're particularly to the people that translated it for this festival, so grateful for the care and attention that they did, not just to get the words from English to French, but also the sense. Because the comedy and there were some references that I think are very English-centric.
Very, very difficult.
Yeah, but the care and attention that they did to go, okay, they don't have, for example, the DFS sofa company that we have in England. So what's the French equivalent to make that joke land? That level of attention to detail is amazing.
Do we know what it was? Did they put an equivalent?
Yeah, the IKEA.
Oh, IKEA.
Well,
that works.
Perfect. Yeah. The Universal.
And what about the all sorts? Was that just like bonbons?
Yeah,
sweets. Yeah, just sweets. Okay.
Yeah. Well, we'll pay attention to this, of course.
Yeah.
You deserve it. I mean, the least we can do, as I said before, is to screen the films in the best possible way, and to try to. I mean, you put so much effort in making a film that it's obvious that when you screen it, I mean, the audience need to see something which is at its best.
Yeah, it was brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us, and I mean, everybody should go to cinemas and watch STI.
And go to your local health clinic as well.
That doesn't come with the film though, by the way.
Be great cross-marketing.
And and it should be screened in schools too, of course, as you said. It's a good way.
And health clinics.
Humour is a very good way to talk about problems.
You'd be surprised, but old people's homes as well, care homes. It should be screened there from our research. It should be screened there too.
Yeah, I heard about it. Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.